Hey Eastview, Josh here. I'm over at a U-Haul facility because I'm moving today, but I wanted to share a word for you from John chapter 3. And when I think about our world today, and I think about myself, and I think about some of the Christ-like virtues and that we want to embody and share in this world, I feel like humility is one of the ones we struggle the most with, right? It is so difficult, especially in the West, in America, where we're just surrounded by consumerism and everything's really built to just get you to get more stuff and for it to be about you and what can make you happier and more satisfied. It is very difficult for things not to become about yourself, right? Especially not only just not about you, but even not like a little bit about you, right? Like to actually have that humility where you put someone fully above yourself. That's difficult to have in our world today. And I think one of the days or one of the experiences we have in our country, in our world, and that we've had for thousands of years that at least paints that picture for us and gives us hope whenever we're experiencing this is a wedding, right? Because we talk about, I was just at my uncle's wedding this last weekend, and we talk about self-sacrificial love, right? Like putting your husband or your wife above yourself. And I think of my wedding this summer with Madison, and I think of how we'll give those vows to each other as well. And when we talk about John 3 today, John the Baptist, he gives this famous line, "He must become greater and I must become less. He must increase and I must decrease." But that in itself paints humility, right? Like that Jesus must become greater. He must become everything to me. I must speak Jesus. I must embody Jesus. I must reflect the Christ in me to the Christ in those around me, like Steve Carter talked about this past Sunday. But there's this other imagery he gives us that I really want to share with us today. And he talks about how he's the friend of the bridegroom. And when you actually look at the language here, he's not just talking about, oh, he's a friend to the bridegroom who's Jesus. He's actually using language that he is the best man in his wedding. He's like that kind of imagery. So John's like, I am the best, John the Baptist, I am the best man to Jesus. And that's not a flex onto John the Baptist's end. He's not like, oh, I am greater than all these people, I'm like in the wedding. No, what he's trying to illustrate for us is like what a best man does in a wedding, right? Like I'm not good at picking and narrowing down, so I have both of my roommates, Jacob and Cooper. They're going to be my best men in my wedding. But when you think of a best man in a wedding, they're supposed to like take care of everything, right? Like they're supposed to make sure the groom and the bride have everything taken care of, and same with the maid of honor. And they just do whatever they can to serve that person that day, that they love them and they're close with them and they care with them, and the groom or the bride care for the bride or the maid of honor and the best man. But at the end of the day, that day is about them. And so the best man just does everything he can to make sure it works out perfectly for the groom. And so maybe you've been married before and you can think of the best man in your wedding or the maid of honor in your wedding. But that's kind of the imagery that John the Baptist is giving us in this passage, is that he is a close friend to Jesus. Like to John, he wants to be as close to Jesus as a best man is to the husband, or to the groom, or the maid of honor is to the bride. But at the end of the day, he knows who this is about. And not because Jesus is selfish or because he needs it, but that John realizes Jesus deserves all of the praise. And when we turn our attention onto the groom at a wedding or bride at the wedding, or we turn our attention onto Jesus with everything to have, life is so much better. And so hopefully today you could just take a moment to turn your attention to Jesus, allow him to be the center and the focus of your day. Love you, Eastview.